What's going on, party people? John Riggins coming to you here, and we are going to talk today about the new Dracula TV show. And first of all, my first thoughts was, when it first came on, oh my god, this is terrible CGI. Like, it was some of the worst CGI I'd seen. I really... it was funny because, you know, the camera pans in on... I can't remember what town it was, but whatever the cathedral that Jonathan Harker's in, and then the fly is zooming around, and I'm watching it with my fiance, and she makes the comment of, wow, she makes a comment of, wow, that looks like something out of Storybrooke. And I'm like, oh, you mean Once Upon a Time? Because we've been binging Once Upon a Time. She hadn't actually, she hasn't been caught up on it yet, neither have I. I know it's a little late to be catching up on that show, but that's a video for another time. Excuse me. But we're sitting here watching it, and I'm like, in the first 10 minutes, like the first 5-10 minutes, I'm not impressed with this show, like, in the least. It's not grabbing my attention. I can't help but look at the bad CGI, and I'm like, this is terrible effects. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. This is just bad. And I'm like, okay, so let's watch to the end of the video and see if it gets any better. And it did. Thank God I stayed, because it did get better. There were some problems with it at first, but then I stopped and I thought about it, like, wait a second. Oh my God, this is a Hammer horror film. And for those of you who don't know what Hammer horror is, Hammer horror was a style of horror film that took place, I think, back in like the 60s or 70s. No, it was even earlier than that. Let me look at my facts real quick. Hammer horror. So I want to get this fact right. Founded in 1934. I was even farther back behind than that. It was back in the 30s is when it was founded. It was done in and it was in the 50s. Since right here, the birth of Hammer horror, 1955 to 1959. As according to the Hammer Horror Productions on Wikipedia, which, you know, you can't 100% trust Wikipedia, but it is a good place for, you know, to get a good jump start on your research. But Hammer horror, if you guys don't know or if not familiar with it, Hammer horror was this type of filming that was very, very like shock. It just gotten color, and they wanted to do something that was very colorful, and it was this kind of horror style that was extremely, like, it was a lot of blood, and the blood was usually like a bright red. And actually, let me pull something up real quick here. Yeah, so Christopher Lee's Christopher Lee's Dracula, which was a great Dracula and was in multiple films, is very reminiscent to this Dracula. And actually, let me go back here, and we're gonna come back up to, no, not all, I just want, not news, I just want all. Where's my cast? This particular Dracula is extremely reminiscent to it. Stephen Moffat, which, I'm going to be honest with you, if you guys know who Stephen Moffat is, he's one of the creative geniuses behind Doctor Who, which is another one of my favorite British sci-fi shows. And this Dracula is portrayed by Claes Bang, which is such an odd name. Let's look him up real quick. He's from Denmark. So he's really good. Like, first of all, he comes out as Dracula, and I'm like, oh wow, this is cheesy. This is just like Gary Oldman's Dracula, except without the bad hair. But he's like, he's old man, and he's coming out here, and he's talking to Jonathan Harker. And Mr. Harker, and, you know, he's got these old nails, these like fake press-on looking claw nails. I'm like, that's just bad. But then they get to like some other special effects, and they're really good. And it cuts back between two different scenes. It cuts back between the scenes of Jonathan Harker and Dracula, because every time Dracula is draining Jonathan Harker, he's taking his youth from him. So you see the progression of Jonathan Harker becoming like more and more older, and just kind of like a corpse, like a walking corpse. And there's this nun that keeps, like, coming back and forth saying, I've been looking for God all over the place, and finally I find him in this. And I'm just like, oh, what? You're a nun. You're supposed to be faithful, I thought. And, like, no, she's not at all. So I'm like, okay. But that was the other thing. I was like, okay, I called this. I called it. I freaking called it. I'm sitting here, and unless you've researched it or seen it yourself, you know what I'm about to say. And this is a spoiler, so they kind of turn the story on its head a little bit. And that was the other thing about the Hammer horror films, is they didn't stay true to the books. Or at least they stayed true to the original source material, but they didn't stay true to it word for word. And one of the things that they turn on its head is Van Helsing. Now, I'm guessing Abraham Van Helsing is probably still a thing. But this one is Agatha Van Helsing. And she's a vampire hunter, and she knows about the occult and things of that nature. And I'm like, oh, cool, okay. And she's talking about, you know, I'm a nun because I'm trapped in a loveless marriage and I didn't have any other options. And I'm like, oh my god. So you're Van Helsing. I guess I was like, she's Van Helsing. She's got to be Van Helsing. And it turns out, yes, she was. She's Agatha Van Helsing. And, you know, there are going to be a lot of people out there that aren't going to like that. Me, personally, I like some things being turned on its head. The idea of gender bending. But it's kind of like one of my favorite videos from Moscow X is, you know, what if Goku was female? But he is the only character that gets gender swapped in the series. So you see how it changes, and it really does change. Because his interaction with Bulma is a lot different, because he's going to understand, you know, boys and girls are different, because Grandpa Gohan wasn't like her. It was really good. He did a really, really, really good job. And in this one, they gender bend Van Helsing as a nun, and I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. Like, let's go with that. That's turning it on its head. But everything else almost stays the same, except for a couple other things, like the fact that, well, I mean, even this is the same, because even in the books, Mina went to, wherever it was, and she went to Transylvania to go find Jonathan Harker after he had escaped the clutches of Dracula. And in this one, he escapes the clutches of Dracula too, but he escapes differently. And I don't want to give too much away. Like, I feel like the Agatha Van Helsing is not that much of a spoiler, because in the previews you see all these nuns with just, you know, like these stakes. You think, oh, there's obviously an order of nuns that are vampire hunters, and they're going to be badass and kick ass. And without giving too much away, you see that that's not necessarily the case. But you see that something's different with Jonathan Harker that they do in the story. And I can't wait to see the second episode, because this is just the first episode of kind of reaction and, you know, thoughts, and hoping where it's going to go with it. Now, I can't binge that show all in one week, all in one sitting, because there are a lot of episodes. And the first one was like a movie length. So you go through this whole process of finding out what happened to Jonathan, you know, what's Jonathan doing now, and the big reveal of, you know, what Jonathan has become at this point because of his interaction with Dracula. And they do turn some things on its head. There's still some bad CGI effects. I'm not going to say there's not. There are still some bad CGI effects. But later on, the CGI effects get a little bit better, but not by much. It is the BBC, so I don't know what else to say about that. But it is Netflix funded, so there's that too. The gore is not as bad as you would think. It's actually worse. And worse is it's just production-wise, it's worse. But it's supposed to be. And that was one of the things I had to stop and think about as I'm going along, because I'm not a horror aficionado. I am wearing my Madame Leota shirt that my girlfriend got me for my birthday, but I'm not like a horror aficionado. I do know what I like about horror. I do know certain genres of horror, just because I watched Angry Video Game Nerd's Cinemassacre, and I learned about a lot of the Hammer horror stuff when watching the nostalgia critic review of what's it called, Sleepy Hollow. Because if you look at that film, it's got kind of the same style. It looks like a Hammer horror film. It's even got a famous Hammer horror film actor in it, Christopher Lee, who I've talked about. Who actually, if you look to the left and right of me, then you'll see these images of Dracula, and they're just little sparse images of Dracula from the new TV show. And I really do like it. I really do, and I think it's a good watch. I really think that it should have came out in let's go back one here. I really feel like it should have came out during Halloween. Like this is Halloween material, right? This is prime Halloween material, and it came out in like friggin' January. Let me see. One season, years 2020. Okay, yeah, it just came out. Yeah, it just came out. And I was thinking, maybe I just missed it. No, I just found it. It just came out. And this is the short description of it. In 1897, Transylvania, the blood-drinking count draws his plans against Victorian London. And I liked it. I like the girl who plays Mina. I like Agatha Van Helsing. I like the guy who plays Jonathan Harker, which, if you don't know, Jonathan Harker's been in a lot of stuff. He's in The Crown. He's actually in, I think, a couple of episodes, if not just one episode, of Outlander, which is one of my favorite TV shows. I love that show. It's so good. If you haven't seen Outlander, go see Outlander. But he's the Major General who was sitting at the table with Claire as Dougal had, like, she was traveling with Dougal and she got, well, not captured, but they definitely got escorted to the general's estate where he was staying in Scotland. And you see Black Jack Randall come in. He's all dirty from horse riding. He goes, "Watch the claret, Randall, Jesus!" And he's that guy. So you see he definitely has this kind of propriety to him. Let's talk about Jonathan Harker for a second. Now, they've kept Jonathan Harker actually fairly correct. What I'm kind of hoping is that they're going to go somewhere farther with Jonathan. He's not just kind of a one-off episode character, because you kind of get that feeling from him. Like something bad's going to happen. Like something they're just going to turn on its head. That's fine. I like that. They do keep a lot of the same tropes of Dracula, but when it comes with Jonathan, they keep his story fairly book accurate, with finding the brides and searching the castle for an escape, and with the thing with the baby. Like, they keep a lot of it pretty accurate to the book, and I like that about Jonathan. And Jonathan's got a very good character, but I couldn't help but the entire time that I see him before he's in his makeup, as he is regular Jonathan Harker, that they dressed and did his makeup and made him act a lot like Renfield from Dracula Dead and Loving It. Oh, pardon me. I'm Thomas Renfield, solicitor from London. You are Count Dracula? I love Dracula Dead and Loving It. I don't care who you are. That's a good film. Leslie Nielsen is Dracula. I am Count. He falls down the steps. Pop, pop, goes, Dracula. Are you alright? My dear Renfield, I'm Count Dracula. You don't think I love Will Bennett to hurt me? And then his shadow gets up. It's like, oh, it's so good. But I'm rambling. But that's who he made me think of. Like, just kind of his voice, his mannerisms made me think of that Renfield. And I thought that was actually pretty good, in all honesty. Dracula himself, the titular character Dracula, the guy who plays him he's good, but he has so many dad jokes. Is there anyone else living in this castle, Count Dracula? No, there is no one else living here. And he has all these puns. I do not drink wine. And that's another kind of Dracula Dead Loving It line. It's a literal line from that. He goes, "Oh, I do not drink wine." It looks like something that Leslie Nielsen says in his daymare. I do not drink wine. But it's all in all, it's a good movie. Just get past the real bad CGI, and you've got some great makeup. The makeup artist did an amazing job. Um, just especially with like the zombies. Oh my god, that part was actually kind of scary. Like I haven't been scared of zombies in a long time. But there's this scene where Jonathan Harker is going through the basement, and this is the basement scene from the book, where he sees Dracula in his coffin. You know, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This is before he sees him, but he's going through all these different boxes, all these different effects from people that have come before him, and you see that he's put like their remains in these boxes. Well, not just the remains, but like all their effects and everything else. And then all of a sudden you see like you hear these flies, and he gets these smells, and he opens it up, and there are these zombies that climb out. And the makeup's really good for the zombies. Like it doesn't look like something. Actually, I take that back. It does kind of look like something out of Michael Jackson's Thriller, but those zombies were terrifying. These ones look like actual undead monsters. And they are monsters. They're going after Jonathan. Like, they don't try and eat him, though, which was kind of weird to me. They are, like, eating flies and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. The lives are taking lives. And they're trying to survive as best they can. Now they see this big dinner, and they're trying to go after it. Or maybe you think to yourselves it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island type deal. They're trying to warn John, like, oh, you need to get out. You need to get out of here. But they can't say anything because they're not speaking his language. They don't know how to speak English. I'm like, okay, that's kind of brilliant. And I even point out a couple of things like that. Like, they really do talk about the language barrier in a couple of places. Like, we're speaking English, but, you read that message to you because there's a time where Jonathan Harker sees all this scratching on his window, and he looks down, and as the sunlight comes in, he's like, oh wait, he turns a certain way, and as he's standing facing the window looking down at the floor at the reflection of the sunlight coming in, he sees the words, help us. And Agatha Van Helsing, she talks about that. She's like, oh, that's the strange part. How is that in English when you were in Transylvania where they don't speak English? And he's like, I didn't think about that. But, or maybe he said like maybe that was strange to him too. But I do like pretty much everything about it. I definitely have to give the second episode a watch, and I'll probably do a whole reaction video towards the end of it. Like this will kind of be a part 1. But I was really kind of enjoying this whole revival of Hammer horror. I just kind of feel like if you do it in January, that's the death of it. Because if you guys remember, there was a movie that came out starring Daniel Radcliffe, and it's technically a remake from a book. And there was the first film that came out in, I want to say it was the 80s, and it was on the BBC. And it's called Woman in Black. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, Woman in Black's boring. It's actually not. I was very happy with Woman in Black. And I'll tell you why I was happy with that movie. Because that movie was subtle horror. This is over-the-top Hammer horror, which I love too. But this movie just didn't rely on jump scares. This movie relied on this subtle kind of, I wouldn't say he's going mad, but it was definitely just this subtle, what creeps me out most is kind of like The Haunting of Hill House. There weren't a lot of jump scares in that. You had to look for the scariness about it. It's this fear that lingers with you. Like in some scenes, you'll be sitting there, you're like, oh, there's a ghost in the background. You don't see it because they're not reacting to it. It's just something that they added in post. Or maybe it was there and they said, no, you can't react to this ghost being there. Like there's a scene in Haunting of Hill House where the dad, and it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm not going to be able to remember everybody's names, but the dad is sitting there and he's working on this black mold issue, and he's looking at this wall. He sees that somebody's like kind of buried themselves in there, and this is where he finds the body. There's a woman in the background. You can't see her. She's like back here, right? And it's like this white face with blonde hair. She's like this. and she just kind of blends in with the background, and I'm like, oh, that's scary. Oh, that's scary as all get out, because the ghosts are constantly around them. They just don't see them, which makes you think, is there a ghost constantly around me? So then you're honestly looking around you, and that's how I felt like Woman in Black was. Is like there's always this presence that's lingering, and it's scary. I think that's scarier than something jumping out going, boo! Oh. That's great for like haunted houses. You know, you go into a haunted house, you have a couple of quick scares, you have a good laugh, you know, you get chased with a chainsaw at the end. It's good times. Good, goofy, gory fun. But with these kind of films, like the Hammer horror films, it's this constant, like, in-your-face blood and gore fest. And I like that. Let's talk a little bit more about Van Helsing herself. I really kind of feel like she deserves to be talked about. First of all, the actress that plays her is, like, hilarious. Like, absolutely hilarious. She's got great comedic timing, but she's serious at the same time. She's that sassy doctor that you go to, that you're like, listen, doc, I'm feeling bad, like, every time I poke myself. She's like Dr. House in, like, the 1800s. And he's like, every time I poke myself, it hurts, everywhere it hurts, ow, 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 ow. And then House looks at him and goes, hold out your finger. Ah! He's like, you got a broke finger, dumbass. But, that's the kind of humor that she is. She's this kind of no-nonsense nonsense. And I love her. She's great. And she comes off as an atheist nun. I'm like, how do you do an atheist nun? Like, I've looked for God all my life, and I've never found him. And finally, it takes the devil for him to appear, and we'll bring on the devil, I say. I'm just like, oh my God, you're crazy. And there's this, like, just this attitude she has, and this air she brings. It's like she brings brevity to a scene without being over the top. She's a scene stealer, but she's a scene stealer in all the right ways. Who is the actress that plays her, by the way? Let's take a look, because I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. Sister Agatha, Dolly Wells. She's in 3 episodes. Let's see. Dolly Wells was born on December 5th, 1971, in Merton, London, England, as Dorothy Perpetua Gatagra. She's known for Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Okay. Bridget Jones's Diary. Where's she, Bridget Jones? Doll and M has been married to Misha Richter since 2000. They have 2 children. Okay, so I gotta find out who she was in Bridget Jones's Diary. I've actually never seen Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I've heard of the book. I've seen the graphic novel. Look at full cast and crew. Who is she? She probably wasn't a very big part. Dolly, Dolly, Dolly. Dolly Wells. She was somebody named Woney. It's been forever since I've seen it. Anyways, all in all, I felt like she's probably going to be an amazing hero for this series. And I can't wait to see where she goes with it. I would also talk a little bit more about Mina, but Mina's character and portrayal wasn't much different than that of what we've seen before in any kind of romantic lead. Like, she kind of does silly things, she doesn't think straight, she thinks with her heart, not her head, she ignores warnings. I mean, she's not dumb. I mean, she does some silly things in the movie, but she's not dumb. She's just got a lot of faith, and she's got a lot of hope in her, and that's what blinds her to a lot of reason, and I think that's a good... I think that in of itself is a good message. Like, you can have faith, but you can't let it blind you to reason. And it's good that she has that hope. It's good that she has that faith. Now, it's showing here that Dolly was in 3 episodes. How many episodes is... I guess it's only a 3-episode series? Go back down here and look at cast. Yeah, if Dracula's only in 3 episodes, and Dolly's only in 3 episodes, and Mina's only in 2, she either disappears for the second episode and comes back in the third, or they kill her off, is what I'm guessing. And I hate that, because I'm guessing this is only, yeah. It's only a 3-episode series, so I guess I've got a little bit longer to go. Okay, so I've got Lucy, Jack. Who else do they have in here? Dr. Sharma, Frank, Mother Superior, Odessa, Joanna Scanlon, Carriage Girl, Duchess Valeria, Commander Irving, Olga Wren, Lord Ruthven, Dora Bell, Piotr. Huh. Okay. So Dr. Seward isn't here. Or maybe it is. Maybe Jack is Dr. Seward, because his name, I think, is also Jonathan Seward. He's played by Matthew Beard. I'm just trying to see if there are any other characters in here, or there are going to be any other characters. But I think it's kind of interesting that they took the some of the things and turned it on its head. And I really do like it. It's a good modern day retelling of Dracula, and if you haven't had a chance to see it, check it out. It's kind of cheesy, but at the same time, like, Dracula's dad jokes, they're not over intrusive, but he does have a lot of dad jokes, and I thought that was kind of silly. But it's a Hammer horror film, so it's going to get silly, and I really do like it. So if you haven't checked out Dracula on Netflix, if you got a Netflix account, go ahead and check it out. You'll love it. You'll want it. You'll need to have it. Just make sure that you can, watch it anytime you need to. Check out some more reviews and formulate your own opinion. Let's talk about it in the comment section below, and we'll go from there. I love y'all. We'll see you soon, and make sure to hit that like, subscribe button so you can keep up with all my other videos. I'll be doing some more react videos, and I'll be doing some more video essays in the coming months. So love y'all, and we'll see you soon. Bye.